Hello, I'm Pauline Salla, and I'm the Director of Humboldt County Juvenile Services. I am also a member of the Nevada Juvenile Justice Oversight Commission. This commission is responsible for implementing juvenile justice reforms that are part of Assembly Bill 472. AB 472 requires the use of evidence-based programs and practices in Nevada's juvenile justice system. In this video, I'm going to describe how we define evidence-based here in Nevada and how it applies to your work as a juvenile justice professional. First, let's talk about the term evidence-based. This term is used in many fields, including juvenile justice. To be evidence-based means that a program or practice has been shown to be effective through some level of objective and rigorous research. When agencies implement a program that research shows to be evidence-based in that way that it was intended to be implemented, they have confidence that the program or practice will work. That is, it will achieve the intended outcomes. There are different definitions of evidence-based that vary in the amount or type of research required that may use different terminology like practicing or effective. As part of AB 472, the Juvenile Justice Oversight Commission has decided on a clear definition of evidence-based for Nevada. That definition is described in this matrix. Nevada's definition is flexible in that it supports both the use of programs with repeated rigorous evaluations, like aggression replacement training, or ART, and functional family therapy, or FFT, as well as those that lack rigorous research but have demonstrated positive effects, like some locally developed programs. The matrix categorizes programs along a continuum of 5 categories: evidence-based, research-based, evidence-informed, ineffective, and harmful. Programs and practices that fall into the categories of evidence-based, research-based, and evidence-informed are eligible for state funding, while programs categorized as ineffective or harmful will be excluded from state funding sources. Programs are categorized based on their demonstrated effectiveness and the type and rigor of their existing research. The stronger the evidence, the more confident we can be in the results of the research, whether it indicates the program is effective or ineffective or harmful. The research evidence will consider, 1, if the program is effective, for example, it reduced reoffending. Secondly, if the rigor of the research design, which lets us know if the outcomes can be attributed to the program or something else. And finally, if the program can be replicated somewhere else and have the same effects. Let's look at each one of these 3 criteria more closely. Effect. If a program has been shown to be effective through objective research, or if it includes elements of approaches that are known to be effective with youth, it falls under the evidence-based, research-based, or evidence-informed. The difference between evidence-based, research-based, and evidence-informed is the type of research design used and whether the findings have been replicated across settings. Research design. The most rigorous evaluation of programs used in randomized controlled experimental study. This type of research is difficult, expensive, and time-consuming to complete, and not done very often in community programs. Randomized controlled experiments involve at least 2 similar comparison groups where one group experiences the intervention and the other does not, and participants are assigned to the groups randomly. To be categorized as evidence-based by Nevada's definition, there must be randomized controlled experimental study where the program has demonstrated effectiveness. A quasi-experimental research design is similar to the randomized controlled experiment, but lacks the random assignment of participants to the 2 groups. Replication. To be considered evidence-based by Nevada's definition, the program needs to have been implemented in at least 2 settings, evaluated in those settings, and found to have similar positive outcomes. One of the components of programs that enables them to be replicated is the existence of implementation guidance, such as curriculum, manual, or protocol. For evidence-based and research-based programs, we would expect the curriculum or protocol to be comprehensive and provide information on participant eligibility criteria, documentation of objectives and activities, and requirements for staff credentials and training. Let's apply the matrix to a few different programs to determine where they fit. First, let's look at a brand name program that you may be familiar with, Aggression Replacement Training, or ART. There are a number of examples of ART being evaluated as effective through a randomized controlled trial across different settings. These examples can be found both on the developer's website as well as sites like crimesolutions.gov and the Federal Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention's Model Program Guide. So ART meets the criteria of effectiveness, research design, and replication. Second, let's take a program that was homegrown or developed in a jurisdiction. Program X was developed by juvenile justice professionals in collaboration with a local university and based on components of other effective programs. They have been facilitating Program X for 4 years in 2 group homes in their county. There is no formal evaluation, but the number of educational credits earned by youth in the facility has increased 20% each year since the program started. Because Program X has not been rigorously evaluated through a randomized controlled experiment or a similar method, it does not fit into the evidence-based or research-based columns. However, because there is some evidence of effectiveness and the program includes elements of other approaches that have been shown to be effective, it does fit the criteria for evidence-informed. Program X has also been implemented in multiple settings, so it also fits the evidence-informed column. Finally, let's look at what would make a program or practice to be ineffective. Program Y was developed locally by juvenile justice professionals. The program has been in use for several years in 2 locations in the county. A formal evaluation was conducted, and no significant differences were found between those who completed the program and those who did not. Because Program Y was evaluated with an experimental design and the results indicated that the youth completing the program did not have better outcomes than those who did not attend the program, Program Y would fit in the ineffective. So how do you put this new definition of evidence-based practices for Nevada into use? Anyone who's involved in juvenile justice should be mindful of the matrix when choosing interventions for youth and families. If you are responsible for implementing programs, you should review the array of programs you already provide and be able to identify where that program fits within the evidence-based practice matrix. If you have purchased the program, check crimesolutions.gov or OJJDP's Model Program Guide to see if the program is listed there. These resources provide examples of existing research. If the program is not on either of these listings, contact the developer and ask for examples of evaluations. If you developed the program in-house or it was developed locally, here are some important questions to answer. Has the program been formally evaluated? And if so, what type of evaluation was it? What were the results? If not, are there pre- and post measures available for the program? Are you currently tracking how many and which youth participate in this program and how their knowledge or behavior changes afterwards? Is there a manual that clearly describes program processes so that the program can be repeated? And can you describe how the program incorporates characteristics of evidence-based programs? If you are responsible for referring youth and families to programs, familiarize yourself with the array of programs available to you. Look for an existing directory of services available in your jurisdiction or support the development of a directory that includes the program's targeted populations, purposes, and anticipated outcomes. Ask service providers for evidence of the effectiveness of their programs. If they do not have a formal evaluation to share, ask them to describe how the program incorporates evidence-based practices and to share their outcome data. Finally, review data on the needs of youth and families in your jurisdiction. Consider whether you have the right programs available to you to meet their needs. If you are a youth or a family involved in the juvenile justice system, be an active partner in your own case planning. Be open and honest about goals that are important or meaningful to you. Let juvenile probation or DCFS know when programs aren't engaging or effective. Talk to juvenile justice practitioner about needs that you see in your community. If you need help, the Nevada Center for Juvenile Justice Innovation is here to help you determine where programs fit on the matrix. Their knowledgeable staff can answer your questions and provide resources about evidence-based practices. Explore the website or contact our staff for more information. On behalf of Nevada and the Juvenile Justice Oversight Commission, we would like to thank you for your commitment and dedication to the youth and families of our state.